Welcome back, viewers, to another exciting episode of Sports Central. I'd like to welcome you all into the wide world of sports in Warwick County, and thank you for tuning in. Before we get to the sports action, and as we head into fall further and further, temperatures are going to start cooling. But if you want to taste the summer again, make sure you pick up some delicious Durr's Orange Pineapple Soda. It's refreshing. It just reminds me of sunshine. Oh, I'm warmer already. But let's get to football. On Friday, 2 of the 3 Warwick County teams picked up victories. And we'll start in 5A football with the Castle Knights. They beat the Bosse Bulldogs 28-9 at home in a game that was called at halftime. There was a lot of storms moving in, and the teams just didn't feel like they could finish the game. But Bosse went ahead and conceded victory at halftime because of their coach said it was because of injuries, and they just didn't feel that they needed to come out and play. So abbreviated win there for the Castle Knights, 28-9. Mitch Gillis, Castle's quarterback, in his second game of the year, was 17 for 20 passing for 190 yards and 3 touchdowns. So that's a pretty efficient game for the senior quarterback. And he will need to be sharp again on Friday as the Castle Knights travel to Evansville Central to face the Bears Friday night at 7 o'clock. The Castle Knights are 4-0 and Central's 3-1. And this is probably Castle's toughest SIAC game to date. They had a big matchup with Wrights in week 3. But Central beat Wrights last week, and this is a pretty important game for Castle if they want to win the SIAC conference again. The Bears have a lot of weapons. Running backs Avion Sullivan, Chris Walker-Glenn, receivers Trevor Ferguson and Jalen Bender. The list goes on, and they have a pretty good quarterback in Austin Fuchs who can get them the ball. So it's really going to strain Castle's defense. I don't think they've seen an offense as dynamic as Central's is so far this year. So it's going to be a big test Friday night at Central. In 1A football action, the Tecumseh Braves picked up a commanding 32-6 win over Union Duggar in their first home game of the year. Like the Castle game, it was called a little bit early due to storms. There's the 3 quarters complete, and they were with 10 minutes left in the game. Storms rolled in, and teams just decided to call the game. That's Tecumseh's second win of the year. They've also beat rival Wood Memorial. And in that game against the Bulldogs, Tecumseh quarterback Adam Grannon had 5 touchdowns. All 5 touchdowns they scored. 4 were through the air. He threw touchdown passes to Spencer Jones, Alex Hall, Garrett Tooley, and Sean Bevan. And Grannon also had a 23-yard touchdown run. Can't have a much better game than that. On Saturday, the Tecumseh Braves do not play Friday night this week. They play Saturday afternoon. They travel up to South Decatur, which is a very long drive. It's one of those places that's just, there's no really easy way to get there. It takes about 3 hours to get up there, so it's going to be a long day for the Braves. And it should be a pretty good matchup. South Decatur beat them last year, but it was a very close game, very high scoring. And both teams so far this year are 2-2. And if the Braves can pick up that win, it would be the first time that Tecumseh's won back-to-back games since 2009. Kind of an interesting stat. So good luck to the Braves with that long drive. Like Tecumseh, the Boonville Pioneers also play Saturday afternoon and also have a pretty lengthy hike to get to their game. The Pioneers head to Indianapolis to face Broad Ripple at 1 o'clock on Saturday. And hopefully Boonville can rebound from a very brutal loss last week. Boonville lost to Gibson Southern 33-31. Gibson Southern scored with 15 seconds left in the game and ended up winning. And that's right on the heels of Boonville scoring to go ahead with 50 seconds left. So in 35 seconds, Gibson Southern marched down the field and scored to beat Boonville Coach Blankenship said it was just a brutal loss, and obviously it is. So hopefully the Pioneers can rebound against the Rockets on Saturday. Broad Ripple, they're a 2A school, but they're pretty dangerous. They're 2-2, but their 2 losses are to Indianapolis Chatard, who's the top-ranked team in 3A, and Indianapolis Brebeuf, who's also ranked in 3A. And they're a very athletic, fast team. Blankenship's a little bit worried about their playmaking ability on defense. They had 2 long defensive touchdowns against Brebeuf in that loss. So it's a tough matchup. Boonville and Broad Ripple, they are totally unfamiliar with each other, so it should be interesting to see how that one plays out. In other sports news around the county, it is a big night for soccer tonight. The Castle Knights face longtime rival Memorial at 7:30 at the Evansville Vandenberg School County Fields, which are located next to Roberts Stadium. And the Boonville Pioneers face Big 8 rival Washington at 7 o'clock at home. Those are both huge games. Castle Memorial soccer games are some of the biggest attended games of the year. And Boonville and Washington, if Boonville wants to compete for a Big 8 title, that's a must-win game since they've already lost to Jasper this year. So 2 huge games tonight. Like I said, Boonville's at 7, Castle's at 7:30. And Boonville has another big game on Monday. They play Gibson Southern, and that's a game that the Pioneer players have been talking about since the beginning of the year. Brigham Knott, Nick Collins, and Blake Cobb told me that I should pretty much have to be at the Gibson Southern game, a must-see game. So 2 big games for the Pioneers coming up in the near future. And lastly, in the volleyball action last night, all 3 Warwick County teams picked up wins. Castle beat Central in 4 games. Boonville beat North in 5. They were down. They lost 2 of the first 3, but then came back to pick up the 5-set victory. And the Tecumseh Braves shut out South Spencer. They won all 3 games to pick up the W. And that wraps up this episode of Sports Central. As always, I thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you pick up some Durst soda sometime in the next week, and make sure you also pick up your issue of the Standard and the Today to get all your Warwick County news. Check us out next week, and thanks for